I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Maggie Thompson is presenting the work titled The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, written by J.J. Hurtak. Maggie Thompson is not validating nor supporting Hurtak's views, epiphanies, visions, beliefs, or words. Maggie Thompson is simply presenting the work as written and is attempting to translate this extraordinarily esoteric work to a common vernacular and understanding. Further, Maggie Thompson understands this work to be solely concerning the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and while Hurtak views his work to be the key or keys to uniting all the world's people under one religion, namely Abrahamic, Maggie Thompson does not support this premise whole cloth. However, this work does give depth and insight into the connection of physics, cosmology, biology, and spirituality, which, for the seeker of divine truth, can be invaluable for the discovery of one's place in the universe, and that may be under the hierarchy of Yahweh, the Ancient of Days, or a hierarchy that exists above or beside such deities, or none altogether. Maggie Thompson implores all seekers of knowledge to, letter A, not accept what a person of authority tells you without validation. This includes looking at critiques and the opposing views with an open mind. Letter B, accept that religion, as well as science and politics, is presented as a means of indoctrination and is always presented with the biases of the overall field or system, the authors of texts, and the presenter, whose goals are to convince you of the, quote, truth, end quote, of their premise or premises. Letter C. It is possible to take insight, truths, and information from a biased work. Any body of work for the purpose of deeper meaning and knowledge must be carefully excavated and carved to glean wisdom. And letter D. No work or bodies of work that is believed by a large group or populace of people should be dismissed out of hand simply because you do not believe it. We live in a diverse time where religious belief takes center stage in the governing of the collected masses. To truly understand the barriers and gateways to your personal success and fulfillment, you must accept that believers of any kind can and will do what is necessary to meet their goals. Hello, hello. So we are here for the Keys of Enoch, key 3-0-8, pages 315 to 422. It's a long one. So it says, the keys to the universe to come tell us, quote, beware of the abomination of desolation, which is found wherever the sacred scriptures of light are held in disrespect before the assembly gathered in the name of the living God, end quote. So it's going to get real tonight. I got a long one tonight. This is long. So everybody's going to have to stick in there with me. But first, let me say hi to some people. Auntie is here first with the peace sign. I'm missing Adric Hapoy. He hasn't been here in a few weeks. So if you guys run into Adric on other shows, tell him we said hello and we miss him. Armando is here. Hello to you as well. Hey, Leon, what's up? Adrian says, let's go. And he has snacks. He's ready. Because this one's gonna be long. All right, so this is the best live tribe on YouTube. So if you are watching from the clouds, please feel free to come into the chat and say hello. You will be welcomed as long as you're appropriate. And shout out to the replay gang. So I'm going to be using multiple concepts as normal to take Hertog's excessively esoteric work into something that's not soteric. I'll be critiquing his premises as well as offering guidance, because this book is a mix of Christian dispensationalism and Jewish Zionism at this point. So we can dissect each one of these keys to discern what these groups or these people, these folks, are up to, even on a global scale. Okay, so the full reading of the key is available on this channel. You can listen to it before or after, or not at all, because I'm going to read highlights. So since it's going to be long, let's get into it. All right, so this key is coded as 3-0-8 to mathematically explain the signs given in the scriptures of light, marking the end of the three-dimensional light consciousness of the old age and the beginning of the eight, the sign of the infinite, the light consciousness of the new age. Man will find within the scriptures of light the actual mathematical codings needed to transform matter into consciousness light. It will become apparent to man that organized religion has shown disrespect for the ancient scientific scriptures of light. For this reason, organized religions who promote the priesthoods of man at the expense of the scriptures will be seen as the, quote, abomination of desolation, end quote, because they sit in the place of the Lord God, proclaiming themselves as the force of Yahweh and the authority of Christ. Whew. Hi, Chef Mike. Thanks for being here. So there's two things I'm going to go over with this. And so this is actually going to be a majority of what I talk about. Okay. So the first is turning matter into consciousness, which is an interesting concept to think of, because especially spiritually, because even religion has been centrally focused on turning consciousness into matter, not matter into consciousness. Like, that's what religion, spirituality, it's literally about turning your consciousness into matter, or what we would call manifesting or praying for blessings, right? In the spiritual and metaphysical community, they use the universal laws for this turning consciousness into matter. So taking what is not in reality and making it happen in reality. It's sometimes called the Hermetic laws. Okay, they're foundational in the metaphysical community. So these laws are written in the Kabbalion. If you haven't heard of that, you should read it. That comes from the wisdom of Kemet. Okay, and then it was later stolen by the Greeks. Okay, so those 7 universal laws are: 1, the law of mentalism, so thinking, right? Number 2, the law of correspondence, how things correspond with one another. The law of vibration, that everything is at a level of vibration. That was proven in physics. The law of polarity, sometimes there are complete opposites. Uh, on every mountain, there's a side that faces the sun and a side that's in the shadow. That is polarity. The law of rhythm, which religion completely forgets, right? Everything is in a pattern, it's in a heartbeat, it's in movement. Okay. The law of cause and effect, we know that one actually. And the law of gender. Okay. Like there's sometimes a splitting of two things that then fit together to make a whole. So metaphysics later expanded it to 12 laws from the seven. Okay. However, those seven laws have to be respected to manifest, to create your life. Okay. According to metaphysics. And again, this is all about taking consciousness and turning it into matter. Okay. And if your manifestation brings about breaking one of those laws, you must not do it. Okay. So it would only cause you pain. It's sort of like that be careful what you wish for. If what you're wishing for and you're trying to manifest and make happen would break one of those laws, then it's going to cause you pain or calamity, right? So these laws are about bringing consciousness to reality, taking consciousness and turning it into matter, okay? But even in organized religion, we beg God to turn his consciousness into reality. We say as above, so below, which is the law of correspondence, okay? And we say on earth as it is in heaven, also a way to say the law of correspondence. But we ask for money, and we ask for stuff, and we ask for people, and we ask for behaviors, and we ask for the football team to win, right? We ask for the promotion. We ask for the Cowboys to finally win a game, and they won't. And for the baby to stop crying, right? We ask God to make his consciousness a reality in our life. So Hertog's new age of turning matter into consciousness, it does sound intriguing, right? Because we spend so much time trying to turn our consciousness into matter that turning matter into consciousness, that's a thought, right? So the second thing is that when he says organized religion has shown disrespect for the ancient scientific scriptures of life. Well, I agree with him on this one. Okay. Organized religion has shown disrespect to the scriptures. Okay. From Rome taking control of Christianity over Kemet and then basing it on Judaism, which made no sense. And then Rome deciding which books would be part of the canon and which will be hidden forever and ever, amen. And then heavily editing the books that are included into the canon, to Rome hiring Paul to write more books that support Rome's vision of a state-controlled religion, to King James ordering 32,000 changes to the Bible to support his behaviors and control, to Martin Luther's movement that viewed German Christians as God's chosen. Did you guys know that about Lutheranism, about Martin Luther? German people were the chosen ones, okay? And all others were subhuman, especially Jews. The Nazis studied Martin Luther, right? Lutheranism taught that women are morally inferior and that their only use is to birth children, or as I refer to it as, they're just a happy hole. So in fact, a man was sinning against God's plan if he did not marry young and have children constantly until he could copulate no more. He supported Ethiopian Christians. This is the one time, but the rest of Africa, he said that all of it was heathenish and all of it was fit to be enslaved. This is Martin Luther, okay? Okay, so back to how organized religion has disrespected the scriptures from that history, right? To slave Bibles that removed liberation and focused on being docile and a good slave to your master, to Mormonism that teaches that men are divine and women are assistants whose purpose is motherhood and submission, and that Black people are cursed and an abomination. Hertock's words too, to modern American Christianity, which teaches that Jesus is white and so is God, that women are not worthy of God's favor and authority, that Chuck marrying Mark is a bigger problem than Pastor Dave diddling the kids in the congregation, that abortion is a bigger problem than genocide, that money is the root of all blessings, and that anyone who is not Christian and white, or not Jewish, but only the white ones, are subhuman and thus can be treated inhumanely. This is modern American Christianity. So when people say America was founded as a Christian nation, it's a yes and a no, because the founding fathers specifically stated and specifically wanted a secular government. Okay. It said the Constitution that was the first thing they talked about. Can't tell people what kind of religion to use. The government cannot. Okay. But they also built America on the tenets of modern American Christianity. Like they made the country what it is today. Thank you so much, Adrian. Thank you for the super chat. He said, well, that puts modern Christianity into context. You see where it came from, right? This is how we went from point A to point wherever we are now. So, Jesus would be appalled with what his words have been turned into. So, yeah, I agree that organized religion has disrespected the scriptures because of all those changes and how the scriptures have been used to justify the worst atrocities in human history. Manifest destiny, slavery, even child marriage, right? You have that. I mean, in is it the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud? You're allowed to molest children ages 2 and under because it doesn't count. And then you're allowed to sexually abuse any Gentile at any time, at any age. I don't have the quotes for that, but if somebody really wants it, I'll try to find it. But it is hard to find online because, you literally have to order a Talmud and you have to prove that you should have it. So, but I want to see where Hertock is going with this because I don't know that he's going the same place I'm going. Because he sure seems to like the Abrahamic religions. Okay, so let's keep going. In the book of Daniel, chapter 11, verses 30 to 33, the scripture tells us that at the end of this consciousness time cycle, quote, there will come against him, parenthetically the false leader, the ships of the Kittim, parenthetically the military powers, and he will have to become dejected. And he will actually go back and hurl denunciations against the Holy Covenant and act effectively. Why does that sound like Trump? I mean, that just sounds like Trump hurling denunciations, right? And he will have to go back and give consideration to those leaving the Holy Covenant. And there will be arms that will stand up proceeding from him, and they will actually profane the sanctuary, the fortress, and remove the constant feature, kind of like ICE. And they will certainly put in place the disgusting thing that is causing desolation. And those who are acting wickedly against the covenant, he will lead into apostasy by means of smooth words. But as regards those having insight among the people, they will impart understanding to the many, and they will certainly be made to stumble by sword and by flame, by captivity and by plundering for some days. Kind of like inflation, removing SNAP, raising insurance rates, all that kind of stuff. So are we here? Are we in the times that Daniel was talking about? I I don't know, but let's see. Let's see what else her talk has to say. Okay, so Enoch said that through the false prophets, there will be a false covenant of a proclaimed, quote, Godhood, end quote, and a sanctification of holy war in the name of God. Israel? Is that Israel? There will be proclaimed godhood where there is no godhood, and peace where there is no peace. Kind of like Trump saying he ended 9 wars, so that the nations of the earth do not recognize God's holy covenant in their midst. Enoch explained to me that the false leader would persuade the nations of the world into a temporary, quote, covenant of peace with Israel. Didn't they just do that? The summit with Trump? Which would be blasphemous covenant, for there cannot be any true peace unless it is a peace established by, quote, God's covenant. Ah. Adrian says, Tractate Ketubot, which I am assuming is in the Talmud, discusses sexually assaulting, the R word, a virgin, how to determine whether an act was consensual, and how much compensation is owed, probably to the father for R wording, or to the husband. You pay compensation if you R word their wife or their daughter. Wild, huh? Okay. So, it's not looking good here because all of this is sounding like the times in which we live right now. So, let's see what else we got. At that time, the religionists of the world, I love that word, by the way, religionists, kind of makes me think of Christian nationalists and the Zionists, and, they're all religionists. So at that time, the religionists of the world who confuse the covenant of their religion with God's holy covenant will mislead millions so that they cannot participate in the covenant of the living God with their spirit. The collective Antichrist, so they're saying Antichrist is a collective of people, will sit in the temples of the world and will govern the covenants of man and remove the constant feature, which is the word of God proclaimed as the living word. So, thank you, Adrian. Yeah, Adrian's finding the tracks for me. So, Jesus in Matthew refers to the disgusting thing from Daniel, which is what her talk is talking about right now. Okay. He says, when you see it, when you see the disgusting thing from Daniel, go to the mountains. This is what Jesus said. Go to the rooftop and do not go home. So he's saying, go to higher ground. When you see the disgusting thing, the disgusting stuff happening, go to higher ground. Go up in the mountains, go on the rooftops, and don't even stop by the house to pick up stuff. Get up high. Is this why the billionaire bunkers are mostly in the mountains? Like, do they know something? Since they have all the ancient scriptures in their original writings, do they already know something maybe that we don't know? All right, so then in 13, and in the appointed time, the holy mountain Sinai will be surrounded by the sons of Ammon, who gather from the east and the south, the displaced of Palestine. They will arouse among the nations a holy war based upon the abomination of a historic covenant and will succeed in activating fires of destruction. However, they are not the, it's stressed, abomination of desolation. For the abomination of desolation is anything that deceives the priesthoods of the earth. Ammon? Do they mean like Ra? Amun Ra? Or do they mean Mammon, like the god of money and capitalism and wealth. But that's not the abomination. It's just a thing it's an abomination. Okay, so then he says, this is the time for the outpouring of the abundance when the gates of the heavens begin to open in 1976, he says, with a witness of beings of light who will appear to activate the faithful of the living word. And at this time, there will begin to occur the shifting of vast geomagnetic grids, which will occur simultaneously with the opening of the tombs of the masters, as well as the unsealing of hidden documents of light, which speak of the celestial masters. I mean, that didn't happen. It's been several years since 1976, and that didn't really happen. But there's lots of talk of indigo children and crystal children and star seeds and things like that being born. And this is talked about in like the spirituality community, and that these people being born will lead people to the true light. So that's interesting, right? And Gen Z seems to be doing a good job of kind of being born already enlightened. And then, it's harder to indoctrinate them, but boy, it sure happens with these Gen Zs. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, but we didn't see the heavens open. We didn't see beings of light or shifting geomagnetic grids or any opening tombs en masse. So there's that. All right. All right. They will not appreciate the scriptures of light because they will understand scripture only in terms of mythology, from teachers who are teaching from a historical standpoint, being oblivious to the higher spiritual truths. It's another thing I agree with. I don't know if we're in the upside down, but I keep agreeing with her talk. But, he tends to veer off and use all of it for a nefarious reason. Okay, so this is why I agree with him, because they that are the they, right, turn things they don't want you to understand into mythology, or they call it woo-woo or aliens, right? So, as an example, the Egyptians, okay? In ancient times, the Egyptians was started and ruled by Black Africans. It is in Africa after all, but this is also genetically proven. As Kemet was rising, and at its height, all of the pharaohs were Black. Okay, so calm down in the comment section. I've already had enough of you people in other comment sections, but because they don't want you to see Black Africans as brilliant, innovative scholars, they tell you aliens built the pyramids, or it's just a giant mausoleum, which makes no logical sense whatsoever. They tell you the chambers and the tunnels were so that a soul could get to heaven, right? But in ancient Kemet, they didn't believe in heaven. They believed in an afterlife where you needed your possessions. They didn't believe in a soul ascending to heaven. That's not even something they did. So how are you supposed to get your possessions out of this vent shaft? They conveniently leave out that the Greek scholars they love all studied in Egypt. That's where they learned what they know. The Egyptians were their professors and their mentors. No, the Black Egyptian pharaohs were superstitious, uncivilized, unevolved, primitives. That's what they say, right? Even though this was global university. And yet they still can't explain the pyramids. They just make shit up. We see the same theme across all of archaeology. This modern supremacy that we evolve and advance in a straight line so that we're the bestest and the smartest now. Okay, if that's the case, then explain how there's evidence of a nuclear bomb blast from 2 billion years ago in Gabon, West Africa. or the proven melted rock from bomb blasts, ancient, by the way, in Scotland, Siberia, and Pakistan, or how trinitite glass forms after nuclear test blasts. That's the only way to get trinitite glass, is a nuclear bomb blast. And trinitite has been found in the Indus Valley in Syria and Jordan with heat signatures at 2,000 to 3,000 degrees Celsius. Well, where'd those come from? If we're the most evolved now and we're the smartest and the bestest, it's not only that you can't explain the pyramids, you can't explain any of it. And it makes me wonder, did we kill ourselves off before? Did we have a nuclear war before? Like a long time ago? Is our mythology actually our history? That's what all of that makes me think of. Because if we had a global nuclear war at some point in time, we have no idea what creatures we made go extinct. Because hell, just living on this planet sometimes and us invading spaces will make bugs and animals go extinct. So, a nuclear bomb blast would. Okay. I don't know. What do you guys think? So then he says, quote, he's talking about Daniel. Now, as for me, Daniel, I heard, but I could not understand. So that I said, oh, my Lord, what will be the final part of these things? And he went on to say, go, Daniel, because the words are made secret and sealed up until the time of the end. Many will cleanse themselves and whiten themselves and will be refined. And the wicked ones will certainly act wickedly, and no wicked ones at all will understand. But the ones having insight will understand. So there's the dispensationalism, right? God says to be insightful, use discernment. But here comes her talk saying, yeah, use insight and know that the directions are in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is literally saying don't be insightful, right? It's use discernment, be insightful. Here's your directions. Here's the rules. I had a similar conversation to this right before the show about, all the nonconformists who would be like, I'm so nonconformist, right? This is kind of what this sounds like. Like, be insightful, use discernment, make good decisions, and do exactly what I tell you to do. Like, that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. All right, so in talking about Israel, he does say the return to Israel and the finding of the Dead Sea Scrolls are the fulfillment of two great prophecies which must take place before the return of the Messiah to earth, which is the third great prophecy. So he's saying everything that's happening in Israel right now is part of the prophecy that's supposed to happen. Okay, so he says, in fact, the power of the sacred scripture will be seen in the coming of myriad interplanetary messengers who will come to reclaim and, quote, reveal, end quote, their scriptures left behind within the temples of stone. Enoch said that we should understand that the sacred scriptures of light are more than just the scriptures of parchment. They are scriptures also written on embellished stones and placed within crystal spheres that need to be decoded through the power of light. Well, that hasn't happened. Like, that didn't happen unless we're talking about maybe crop circles. Maybe that's like interplanetary messengers leaving messages. But most crop circles, not all, but most all have been debunked, but not all. So, if you're looking for some really good information on that doesn't go woo-woo, the Y-Files does a great show on crop circles. So you should watch that. I'm not going to go through it tonight. All right. So nonetheless, at the end of this time cycle, there shall be scriptures of crystal found in the oceans, and scriptures of stone found in the land of Yucatan, and scriptures of light found throughout the world, which shall have name coatings of, quote, talk. T-A-K, end quote, or shall speak of regions identified with cognate forms of the word talk and the visitations of the true emissaries of light to this planet in previous ages. So, okay. Number one, scriptures of crystal found in the oceans is in the Colburn Bible. You guys maybe have heard me talk about the Colburn Bible on this channel, and I've read from the Colburn Bible, but the scriptures of crystal found in the oceans is in the Colburn Bible, specifically the writings of the bronze books. Okay. Those, however, are also traced to where? Kemet, because Kemet was the global university. And then it was preserved among the Celtic scribes. Okay. There were what they called record crystals, where the recordings were, they were taken beneath the seas after a cataclysmic flood. Guys, across the whole world, every region will tell you about the big flood. So for them to try to say it didn't happen, I don't believe it. Although science is finding that, maybe a little bit it did. But they were taken beneath the seas after a cataclysmic flood. Okay, so in the Colburn, in the book of Creation, chapter 3, verse 4, it says, great stones were set that spoke to the eyes. They shone with the sun of wisdom. But the seas rose up and covered the lands where the stones were set. Okay, that's what they're talking about. And they're referred to as crystal memory tablets. And it aligns with the Sumerian me, the books of me, M-E. And it doesn't mean me like I. So I tend to try to call them the book of meh, which sounds funny. And they also align with the Dogon Nomo memory stones. So these are vastly different regions that are talking about very similar things. Okay. Scriptures of stone found in the Yucatan. So we talked about that. These are in the books of the Chilam Balam in the Mayan codices. Okay. They record the fall of earlier world ages in the Khatun cycles. Civilizations rising and disappearing, and knowledge being stored in stones. Now, there's conversation from the Greeks who talk about going and meeting with Pharaoh and with the priests, and they're kind of laughing at the Greeks because as old as Greek history is, it was in its infancy compared to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh talked about there's going to be many rise and falls of civilization and that they had seen them and witnessed them. Okay. In the Chalam Balam of Chumayel, it says, the stones speak. They preserve the memory of the first age. Interesting, huh? In the Chilam Balam Khatun, number 13, Ahau, it says, the wisdom of those before was carved into stone, that it not be lost to the fires and floods. So they wrote it down knowing that fires and floods were going to happen because it was the wisdom of the first peoples. And I don't mean Native Americans or even indigenous. All of these books talk about all the people that were here before, the first people. The Maya say they didn't build the petroglyph codices, the stone libraries, the megalithic messages, the Olmec basalt heads, the Izapa stele, or any of the other ancient structures. The Maya say they didn't build any of that. They say they inherited them from the first peoples. Interesting. All right, next, scriptures of light talk about talk. That's what her talk is trying to say. This is the actual thing. So this comes from Gnostic and Proto-Egyptian light doctrine. specifically in the Pistis Sophia. So Gnostics, you will know what I'm talking about in the Pistis Sophia, Pistis. So in the Pistis Sophia, in the book of Jew, Geu, Jeu, the trimorphic protonoia and the Manichaean light hymns. So this is the scriptures of light are all in here. And talk. The name appears as talk, T-A-K, also as ta'ak, T-A'-A-K, talk, T-A-K-H, Dak, D-A-K-H, Dakar, D-A-K-K-A-R, and Takael, T-A-K-K-I-E-L. These are all talk, okay? Talk is a messenger of light who shows up when an age is ending. He restores knowledge. So he's, again, also tied to the crystals that have information in them, the stone tablets that have information in them. He restores knowledge and he helps souls remember who they are. In the book of Jude, chapter 2, verse 11, the light sent forth talk, who bears the memory of worlds before. So these are first age, okay? In the Pistis Sophia, fragment 8, talk spoke to them in the brilliance of the sun eye, saying, remember the first light. So now we have light scriptures having to do with talk, okay? He's not a god, he's not an angel, he's not a demon. He's almost like a Dogon Nomo, or like the Cometian Tahuti, Quetzalcoatl returned, the Hopi Pahana, or the Yoruba Eshu Eloi, a gatekeeper, okay? Talk is the one who brings back the knowledge after the fall, okay? That's who Talk is. And he's bringing the scriptures of light, which is your memory, which I always find very interesting. Okay, yet the religions shall try to hide these new scriptures which verify the teachings of Enoch and the masters. Well, they already do this. They steal and loot texts, statues, carvings, etc. from around the globe. And then they hoard them into museums and under the Vatican so you can't see them. So this happens all the time. We wouldn't know if they have all this stuff because it just happens way too often. All right, and then those who speak the truth will be attacked and destroyed. But the Zohar tells us, many shall rise, many shall be brought to life, and many shall shine as the stars in the firmament. And then he has some Greek here, which I don't know if he's just repeating himself. So many of us are learning in real time what it means to be human, to be a human. And in doing that, we're learning who is not acting like a human or being a human, or maybe isn't even a human, because they're definitely not humane. Now, I like to end the keys shows with like something positive, offering guidance and giving some positive things to take away from it, which we've gone through some interesting stuff tonight. Or maybe even give good advice. But this time, I'm going to leave you with this. No matter what, it's always right to do what's right. To be honest, to share, to be kind. Don't lie, cheat, steal, or hurt or harm other people. Listen to your instinct, to your gut. Use your discernment. You don't have to follow other people's rules if they tell you to. I believe we are in some unprecedented times. Whether it's spiritual, it's religious, or it's like a historical fall of yet another civilization, probably, but I don't know. So no matter what it is, staying on the right side of right and the right side of history is becoming imperative. So just don't be scared. Be yourself. All right. I thank you guys for being here tonight. We're just under an hour. Appreciate you so much. So this coming Sunday, we're going to have part 3, continuing to go through the history of the MAGAs, and how we got to where MAGA doesn't just mean Republican anymore. And we have Democrats who are Republicans. So we're going to have part 3 of that this coming Sunday. Adrian's going to be my guest again. And if I don't see you this Sunday, then I will see you next Wednesday, where we continue to do more keys. So I appreciate you guys being here. Have a good Wednesday. I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. Let's uncover the universe together.